Hey there, it's Perry with PapercraftingThreads. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm making a fun fold alternative to the Fluttering Garden March 2026 paper pumpkin kit. Be sure to watch to the end because I'll share two versions of the floating hexagon card. So let's get started. I have one of the card bases from the kit, and with the long side at the top, I'm scoring at 1.5 inches, then at 3 inches, the 4 1/4 is already scored. Then turning my card this way, all my score lines are down here. Moving this over to 1 1/4. And then bringing my cut blade down to that first score line, which is 4 1/4. Then I'm using the ruler on this side, pushing this over to 1 1/4. And again, my cutting blade down to that first score line, which is 4 1/4. I'm going to leave that piece in there so that these do not move, which means I'll have to pick up my scoring blade a couple of times, but that's okay. So 5 1/2, using my scoring blade, going just up to this cut line. Moving it up here, and again 5 1/2 and just down to that cut line. Moving it over to 7 inches, same thing, just down to the cut line, which is 1 1/4 inches. And then moving it down here and pulling it up to that cut line, which is 4 1/4 on this ruler here. And then last, moving it over to 8 1/4 and doing that same little 1 1/4 inch there. If you wanted to just pull it all the way down, you could, but then you'll have score lines on this piece, and I'm going to save this for another project. And then putting it back over here at this 4 1/4, moving my cutting blade to the middle, and then cutting up here to 1 1/4 and down here to 4 1/4. And now this piece comes out and can be used for another project. And then one other thing I have to do is turn it this way and cut off 1/4 inch from this side. Okay, now I can fold on my score lines. So they're all going to be going the same way. They're all going to be valley folds. Making sure I square that up along that edge before I burnish that. And then making sure this one is lined up on this edge. And then as I fold these, again, each time making sure it's squared up. That'll just make the card laid nicer. And then I have another card base that I chopped up, and these all measure 5 1/2 inches tall. And the two end ones here are 1 3/8, and this middle one is 1 1/2. I'm going to put them on some scrap paper and line them up to make one piece of paper. Then I have a Post-it note here, and I'm using the large basic gray ink pad. A little one came in the kit, but I had this one out. and the tall floral image. And actually, I need to have the sticky side at the bottom here. Stamping this twice. And then I'm fussy cutting this. And when I say that, I don't mean everything. And I'm cutting right up to the edge, and even sometimes going inside the edge of the ink outline, because I'm going to use this as a mask. It does not need to be super precise. The trick to fussy cutting is to hold your scissors open at a 45-degree angle and move your paper, not the scissors so much. And again, it's okay if I chop something off. It really doesn't take much time at all. And if you're new to fussy cutting, hang in there. It gets easier with practice. Then I'm stamping this large, tall image down here. And over here, and I'm going to use it. Want to make sure this tall one and this tall one are not the same height. So just putting these down a little bit lower. And then I'm going to do the same one over here. And again, I do not want these to be the same height. I want them to be different. So make this side a little bit shorter than this one over here. Pardon if my head is in the way. Then I'm using my mask inking this up again. And this one I want to be taller. Oops, and I didn't press down there. Good thing about using photopolymer stamps, I can see where I need to press again. And then moving this over here to cover up this one. Re-inking. And this one I want it to be super tall. And now I have a little field of flowers there. And save your mask. You can reuse those over and over. No need to have to fussy cut them again. Set those aside and keep them in order. Then pulling this over here. And then I'm using this other image from the kit. And I just love this little thing. Actually, let me flatten that out. And stamping this
very close to the bottom. And this one, I do not want it to go onto the other side here, so I'm going to put something there. And then the leaf that was in the kit, I'm going to fill in along the bottom here. Like that. Okay, then I'm ready to assemble this, and I have my liquid glue. This one I want to wait on, so I'm setting that up there to the side so I do not forget. Double checking that it fits. Okay, and then this, I'm putting my glue on here. And folding that down and tucking that under, making sure the bottom edge is lined up. And I can even give that a little burnish to help that stick. And same thing up here. And then this one, put the adhesive on the back and slide it down in here. Then I have a piece of window sheet, and it measures 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And I have some glue dots left over from another paper pumpkin kit. And I'm just going to put 3 of them on one end. And then on the opposite end. Remove the backings. And then with that adhesive side up, insert that into the card. Again, the adhesive side is up, facing up on top, and then press down. Then I'm taking the I'm so grateful for you, cutting it straight across, and then straight up, and straight up on this side. And I'm going to double check. We just pass that edge. I'm actually going to turn it over. Double check size. And then using my glue, staying away from this curved edge, adhering that onto that section. And then I can flatten the card and use this edge as a guide. Then I have my hummingbirds from the kit. And this one, the one that's dive bombing, I'm going to apply my adhesive on this side. So I'm going to again use some of these glue dots from another kit. And he's down here. And then this one, I'm using a mini dimensional. I'm putting it behind the head, just below the head. And he's going over here. And the last one, adding glue dots on this side, is going up here. And then last but not least, I have the little gems from the pack. And there you have it, a floating hexagon card. And it stands for display and folds flat for mailing. I do have another version of this card. This one I use cardstock rather than using the card base, and my measurements are slightly different because I wasn't constrained by that card base. I use the add-on die for the word beautiful, and this is double layered. And then the back looks like this. And because my cardstock is light enough, I decided not to put a panel. My message can still be written here. And this one also folds flat and fits inside the envelope. Which one's your favorite? I'll have measurements for both over on my website.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and thanks for watching. Bye!